This presentation, titled Interpreting Evidence for Any Successful Management System as ISO 9001 Auditing, comes to us from Marco Pardave. Marco has more than 40 years of experience in assessing company effectiveness and implementing solutions such as TQM, SQA, Lean, Six Sigma, ISO management systems, and risk assessments. His professional achievements include positions such as VP Operations, Director, Manager, Consultant, Assessor, Auditor, Trainer, and Certification Manager. Marco has collaborated with international companies, which include Chrysler Corporation, Cotecna Quality Resources, Dynacorp Corporation, the National Institute of Nuclear Energy, and Global Supplier Progress, Inc. He is a member or delegate of the International Organization for Standardization and delegate for USA Tag 302 for the ISO 19011-2018 and chief of the Mexican delegation of the STTF Casco for the translation to Spanish on processes. He is also a chief delegate of the Mexican and USA Tag 302 delegates to ISO TC 176 on quality, ISO TC 207 on environmental, Casco, Health Informatics ISO TC 215, ISO EEC 2700, Joint Technical Committee 1, and is a delegate to SC 27, IT Security Committee's HL7 WG2, having earned an international reputation as an expert in integrated supply chain security management. And with that, take it away, Marco.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. Let's start with the presentation. And one of the most important things in this presentation is to try to focus more in the value of the auditors, the value of the audited, and the impact of the management system belongs to two more important points: focus in profit and customer satisfaction, as well a better environment in the company. So with these three performance indicators, you can measure if any management system works or not works. Let's go to start with the first one. The interpretation is the purpose of this presentation is to make auditors first part and third parties aware to the main objectives of the benefits and implementation of the management system, to retain strength and visualize the opportunity of any management system application. That means it doesn't say ISO 9001, but can be ISO 14000 or 40000 or whatever. Another important issue is, in addition to this section, is identify the way of think of the users of the standards. In this case, this presentation, we are focused in the three different scenarios or the three different participants. The other one is to reinforce the concept of the process model approach. When the auditor walk through the different clauses, they can start in the section 4, that is going to be the clause 4, that is the one that we are going to start right now. But it has to go and to jump to different other section of the standards, because remember, when we start auditing or when I will start a new project, we need to start with planning. So one of the biggest suggestions here is when you start auditing or you start a company, we have to start what is going to be my inputs of planning. You have to be sure that the planning is okay, and to identify the level of risk in every one of the stage of the audit. That means it's clarification of the requirements. It's another focus that we are going to have in this presentation. The other one is the question to ask during the audit: how to start an audit? What are the basic questions? I will put some examples of basic questions how to start, but my recommendation based on the practice that I have is start with planning. Any question in any section: how did you plan in your policy? How did you plan in the budget? And then how you are going to implement is the act, and then how you control, that is the check, and then what are you doing with the results in order to start going back and to continue with the deming cycle. That is a very, very important concept that we cannot forget, and you will see with some videos that we start. So the possible means of the evidence, this is the other important part. This gathering, how we gathering all the information in order to present, and what is the main objective of this document. So this is the point that we are going to emphasize during this presentation. And the final general objective is the details of the stance of the audit change for each requirement in how it will be interpreted, what is the meaning. And in some cases, when we develop the standard, some questions in the standard is more for normalization guys or for standardization persons. It has to be very clear. That's why we make some adjustments of the standards every 3 years, every 5 years. We modify in order to clarify any question. Okay, so we are going to start with the key points of the auditing and the interpretation. As a evidence of the ISO 9001-2015 clause, what is the meaning of the clause 1.2 and 5.2 interconnected with the beginning of the question? I have three or five important things to figure it out. First is the documentation review that can support everything. Everything can be in compliance in the documentation. But the most important of the audit is in the second step or the second phase of the audit is the effectiveness, to measure the effectiveness of the management system. So in this case, the considerations that we already beginning was first understand the issue and anticipate needs and expectations of the interested parties, because we're talking about the section 4. So what are the really objectives of my customers, the objectives of the government, the objectives of the society that is going to use my product. So we have to be aware how we are going to get this information. Regarding the customers, in fact, it's quite easy because they give you a contract. In the contract, it has to be write down all the specifications. But they have to see if this product affect the environment so we have to see what kind of legal issues it discussed. We have to knock the door or to analyze what are the requirements. And if we as a company that we are going to make products, I need to know in some cases how is going to be the final user use our product. In some cases, it's a stop between the distributor and the final user. Me as a factory, I produce, I send to one dealer, the dealer is in charge of the customers, and I don't have any information from the final user. And that's why we modified the standard in this section. In the last section, when we're talking about post-service. Post-service means a so strong point that is going to be part of my inputs in order to get the context of the organization. The other one is to strengthen links between strategies and integral management system approach. Any management system is not separate of the budget. You make the budget of the company. This budget has to be aligned with the objectives and how to measure every one of the activities that has your management system as a quality objectives or environmental objectives or health and safety objectives. Another consideration is, because remember that we remove the section when we're talking about corrective action and preventive action was modified. Everybody knows now about the risk. So we now have to identify in the process approach, we have to identify in every state what is the potential risk that the one that I make a comments before at the beginning. I need to know what are the potential risks that the inputs that I will use for my planning, what is the level of risk. So we have to, it's a dynamic situation now that in the present condition, we identify, for example, the level of risk 20 from 0 to 20, 1 to 20. 20 is the hardest, the most dangerous risk. And how we are going to control this risk or how we are going to reduce the risk with several activities or controls that we are going to put. So, and it's not forever, it's not once a year. Many companies, they make once a year the risk study or the risk matrix. No, the risk matrix is a dynamic situation. The other one is to control the value added. When we make a procedure, what is the value of this procedure? How we are going to measure the procedure? And in a manager system, what will be the benefits or to implement procedures inside of the system. So we have to figure it out that the benefit has to impact in the customer, the impact in the environment, or impact in the operation per se. And the other point we have to be is what we're going to do with the data to evaluate and improve the performance. So when we're talking about effectiveness, so we're talking before and after, what's happened 3 months ago, what's happened now. And based on that, we have to measure the performance that they come from the KPIs. Okay, based on that, just in a general basis, is the conventional people we make some mistakes in interpretation between the auditor approach and the integral interested party on the management system. So we have to be very clear that the auditor approach is to represent the customer, the customer interest. And the value added that when we get a non-conformity, every non-conformity is a potential way to improve your organization. So that's why we can have, we say about the other section, the risk and benefits. If I prevent the risk, immediately I will get a benefit. So be aware that the auditor, he cannot forget that when he's auditing, he represents the customer point of view. And the other one, in this one, when we say auditor, the auditor originally, we cannot give a recommendation if we're talking about third-party audit as a certification or entity. So we have to be careful. Just we have to try to show to the auditee what are the impact, but based in their own words. So okay, I have a finding. Can you check me since when you have this finding, or show me the results 3 months ago, 5 months ago, and then let me know what is the impact when you resolve, what is the benefits, and to who is going to reflect the benefits. The benefit will be to the interested parties. One of the interested parties can be the customer, or one interested party can be the owners of the company. And the best way to make these presentations, or when we try to rise non-conformity, is to try to focus in money. Money is the only way that any management system, any manager can understand very well. When they say 5% and was before, and now it's 4%. Oh, we are improving. Okay, but he just say, we have been lost or no, we have been lost $100,000. What? Yes, and now we are in $900,000. So the numbers impact incredible in order to take decision, because based on the impact of this finding, if I have to invest $10,000, will be easy to accept, because in less than 1 week, I can get the return on investment. That's why it's important to figure out what's happened. The other one is to mix. When we mix the risk-based thinking, the people believe that just to show a risk matrix is enough. No, you have to evaluate the risk, this matrix, and how it's moving. If you say that you was in 20, the level of risk, and then you are going to reduce to 14 or to 10, you need to request as an auditor, show me the results of those controls. And with the results of those controls, I need to see that really the level was reduced from 20 to 14, and the evidence. And the final is when we are making the evaluation, is to try to don't mix the auditor and evaluator approach. So the auditor is the one that is going to raise the finding or the potential finding, and the evaluation has to be how is the impact of this finding. That is one of the more important things. So you can later on, you can read in detail in the presentation. The other section, we already spoke about the next one, the plain do check action, when we start implemented. That this is one of the good things when we start making the, based on the clouds 4.1, 4.2. Okay, but what is important in this one? Always we need to think, when we start auditing or we have a management system, we need to see what is the type of impact of the organization. So in this case, is determination of the internal external issues contribute to the better understanding organization context are required. What is my responsibility as a context? That I include all internal interested parties. and the other one of external. The other one, what type of methodology is not necessary for determining the relevant matters to assure the reliability of inputs of effective analysis. We already spoke when we were talking about the risk. I can gather a lot of inputs, but I have to be sure how reliable is this information. Don't take by true any information that you get from as an input. You have to validate and to identify the level of risk. That's why we need to start always making the risk evaluation. And at the end, to see what are the inputs and what is the effective analysis of this input. The other one is the organization purpose and issues. All organization, in a general way, they want profits and prestige, okay? And the customer, they're looking for a consistency quality product, consistency environmental product that doesn't change, and you start rely on this vendor. When you rely on this customer, in this case, you start rising the profits. That's why it's important to maintain the prestige. And the other section of the context organization is to determine the potential impact of the sources of the risk and opportunities that we spoke about this section. So to evaluate the level of positive or negative impact that we are going to have if I don't identify the really root cause of the inputs. Okay, I hope can be understandable these questions. We are open to any question that you have. And the other section important is the impact of the audit. What do you expect after to finish the audit? So in this case, understand the context organization is a requirement without any requirement methodology for determining the issues. In this case, you have an open way to collect information. Open. The standard doesn't request any specific methodology. You can see when I spoke with my interested parties. I take out my phone, I call them, and they told me that one, and you write in a paper or something documented, because this is the one that you're going to evaluate. Or me as an auditor, if they show me a presentation that he spoke to the customer in order to request the objectives and what type of expectations they want, me as an auditor, I can be able to call to the same person, to the same company, and to talk with the person just to validate the effectiveness of this call. And the second is to see it was implemented, what is the benefits of those corrective action or those projects that he started implementing in order to improve the company. The other issue that is typically the organization must present the purpose of the strategic directions to demonstrate the compatibility of the policy objectives. So you have to align the business plan of the company, this business plan, versus deploy the business plan into objectives, and the objectives into the processes, and in the processes into the job description. So from the job descriptions, we have to it has to be aligned all the objectives that we are looking in order to assure that the budget or the business plan we are going to be in compliance in the way that we want. That's why we go in some cases to the section 9 of the standard. We jump from 4.1 or 4.2 or 4.3 to the section 9 to see what's happened with the management meeting. If they validate that they are based on the planning, if they are reaching the objectives. The other section of the standard, we're talking about the context organization, understand. The context is an example, possible question that we are going to make. What is your vision of the organization in the medium, short, and long term? Why is important this one? Because we expected like a possible means of the evidence is to show the result of the strategy, to show a business plan, and with this one is enough in order to analyze the objective. And the state of the audit challenge is to evaluate the compatibility of the issues of the interpretation and results of the quality management system through the audit. So in this case, okay, when they show me the business plan, they show me the objectives and how they tracking, they track in the monthly meetings or weekly meetings these objectives and feel comfortable as an auditor that they are in the right track in order to do the necessary things to reach the objectives. The other one is what is your strategy? Okay, many things is not writing in the standard to use the SWOT, but it's a typical analysis. As a ISO, we cannot recommend any specific methodologies, but to know the threats, the opportunities, or the strengths is very important to analyze the system, and then you can become a matrix. When you make this matrix, usually when I make the audits, they show me a very nice matrix. You will see one in the examples that I put in the next coming slides, that they have to move this SWOT into the work plan. This work plan, they will say what they have to do in order to reduce the threat or to take care of the threat, and to try to move with the time the threat to opportunity for improvement. So something like this. And the next, when we're talking about the impact of organization, when we start talking about the expectation of the interested parties, the organization must determine the interest parties and the requirement structure, update this analysis, and make maximum use of information. When we say update, is that you have to analyze and you have to define how often you are going to make the update. Every 3 months, every 6 months, but no once a year. The standards say at least once a year you have a manager meeting. No, because this is when the people start thinking that it's separate any management system to the process, and it's totally different. Any management system is part of the strategy of the organization. It's a methodology. It's a management methodology, how to start tracking in a weekly basis. Maybe you can make one management meeting in 3 months, and you cover all the sections, the standard they are looking for. But this is a continuous, it's a continuous analysis. In some cases, the people, they don't have time to document. So that's why important now is ISO is open. You can record your meetings, and it's like a minute. Just record, because the most important is you have any doubt, you have to come back and to see what was the commitment. So the other relevant impact organization is the interest party source of the risk and opportunities. If you see, when you make the trend analysis of the vendors, as you see that the vendors in a chart of 3 years, you put 1 year to another one in one chart, you will see frequencies. So you can see cycles, specific cycles that you see between, for example, the flowers. In the Mother's Day, in the San Valentine Day, all the people that produce flowers, they know that it's a peak in this information that I need to have. Before that one, all the production is going to be rise so tremendous, but start 15 days, 1 month or 2 months before that happened. That's why it's important in the content organization to analyze what is the level of risk, is that we can not supply on time the flowers. And to avoid this one, you have to make a program how to avoid the potential risk. Like a transportation, we can have the flowers, we have the people with the flowers, but the transportation is another third party. It's not your own company, it's a third party. What is the level of risk? To rise and to make the contract on time, in order that those transportation arrive on time to that one. That's why it's important. And another typical issue is to understand as an obligation to conform the requirements of the interested parties. So that is usually don't finish to sign the contract if it's not clear enough what are the requirements of the customer, and if you can comply with the requirements. Many companies, in order to get the contract, they say, yes, I can submit this amount of flowers, like an example, of flowers in May. When I started producing 5 tons of flowers, and in this peak sales is going to be about 100 tons. So from 10 to 100 is a big difference. So, but you have the contract, but you have to be preventive if you have enough money to rise before 3 months or 2 months before to start. That's the secure the context organization. How is my capacity? And minimalist intermediate, honest the organization may have a minimalist intermediate or broad approach as regards interest parties. So you can develop a checklist. And the other issue important too is you have to review the information. To analyze, you can define the frequency, how often you have to make the statistics, and to see trends or no, and to see the frequency, because every company has a specific path of behavior. So if you have some behavior, you must know in advance the typical behavior, but the only way that you can know when you use the statistical analysis, and you compare one year to another year, and then you start see the trends or cycles or the process. If you see the cycles and the trends, so you can be able to make a prediction. Or if some of 3 months you don't have enough information, you can make a interpolation or extrapolation for the future, or interpolation when you don't know what's happened between February and May, for example, because I didn't have the information, I didn't start doing that one. But with the statistical approach, you can make that information. What is the impact? The impact, like the standards say, is compatibility between the organization purpose, so the issues, the need and expectation of the interested party, and how maximize is use is model information. So how to make the optimization of the data. And in principle, the external and interested parties are really audited, except for the service companies, instead the third parties. Instead, the interaction, instead of the interactions that they can have. Okay, the second part, when we're talking about 4.2, understand the needs and expectation. So we have a similar example, like who are the interested parties you have identified and how. We already spoke a lot about this one because I prefer to go as fast as possible to the video. In this case, you have a list, for example, of the interested parties, or you have a matrix, or when you identify from the customer, how many customers, how many vendors do you have? Show me the list, and then you can identify give priorities, or by level of risk, you can order by level of risk all your interested parties in a different approach of government, customers, and vendors. Okay. And the most important in this question is how you are going to address and evaluate based on the results of your own audit. It can be in the first phase and the second phase. Another important issue is what are the criteria to use to decide on the relevant interested parties in the context of the QMS or any management system, okay? In order to, when we make this type of question, the auditee can show the SWOT, or they can show the list of surveys that they made in order to get the information exactly, or the list of contracts if we're talking about our customers, about the customers, or we can to show that we are in compliance or the legal requirements. We show the list of the standards or laws that we have to be in compliance, and how often we make a chart. So we expected to see from the audit point of view this type of evidence, and you will see the evidence now in the video as a live example. And to take care and to avoid findings unwarranted non-conformity. Remember, you cannot raise a non-conformity if you don't have the evidence. You can see the non-conformity, but if you don't get the evidence, you cannot raise the non-conformity. But the most important is not to raise, is that the auditee see the needs and opportunities of this non-conformity, because the most important is what is the impact if I resolve it. If you resolve this non-conformity, you will see the extra value that immediately, if you see the value, the auditee is going to make the investment in a as fast as possible. But the most important, when you say we need to, like the example that I gave, I need $40,000 to make to make the corrective action. If you don't define the impact of this non-conformity, most of the time the manager will say, no, it's too much. But when you explain, we have been lost this $20,000 we have been lost in average since 7 months ago. So in 1 year of this finding has been repetitive, this finding, because we didn't do anything, we already lost more than $200,000. And if we invest $20 from the same correction, the return of investment can be in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So that's why it's important not just to see the non-conformity as a percent of rejections. The most important is the impact. What was the impact that was suffered that he couldn't sell 20% more because was rejected and you didn't finish the product? That's why the typical consideration that we must have. Now, in this case, we are going to have the opportunity to see one video. We are going to see in 2 minutes this video. Michelle is going to help us to make this section, and I will share the presentation to her. Michelle, can you please share? Thank you so much.
I would like to know how can you understand what means the context of the organization, and how can you prove that you are in compliance with the context of the organization?
Okay, the context of our organization, it's several components that conform as such. For example, the facilities and infrastructure, the machinery and equipment, and our workforce, including management and supervisors. And in order to make sure that we comply with our stakeholders or the interested parties' expectations, we have our company's quality policy, which reads: CAP accepts the responsibility to establish, implement, and maintain a quality policy for setting quality objectives, assurance, compliance with the interested parties. And here we have a shortcut that brings us to the list of customer.
Okay, but this is there is no part. Indirectly is part of the context.
That's right.
Because the 4.2 is regarding interest parties. Right now is the context. So can you specify only for the context?
Okay, yes.
It's an input. This is the input.
This is the input. Exactly. So, understanding our context, again, we take into consideration facilities and installations, our quality policy that reads setting a policy objectives, assuring compliance with interested parties, and supporting Bernard Cap's strategic direction, which is analyzed in the SWOT, which we can see here for the period of 2017 and 2022, and also that we exercise the responsibility to adequate training of our employees, which is again one of the key components of our organization.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. One of the opportunities that you can have when you can see all the video are 6 minutes. 6 minutes of this video. I will come back to the presentation, and it's going to be you have time to review the complement of this section, but they are going to show how he's going to jump in order to see the pro. Okay, let's start. Continue. As I say before, we cut in 2 minutes. The video is 6 minutes. You can later on to see and analyze the complete results of these questions answered by the auditing. Okay, based on that one, we talked a little bit in the previous video about the impact of organization. So in this case, how this auditing show to the managers how to demonstrate the leadership, and he invite them to share the information in every month. They have a monthly meetings, and then the general manager and every one of the managers explain the results to the employees. That is part of the leadership. It's not just to give what to do. The most important too is all the effort that the organization made. When we're talking about the context of organization, is all the employees and the knowledge of the person, etc. We have to raise the level of them. So they explain in detail in the video you will see later on. So another important issue when we're talking about the leadership is greater accountability. How accountable we are the manager, how effective is the manager. So how we are going to measure the roles of the general or the roles and the leadership, how it's going to reflect into the process in a daily basis. So that's what's important. How, and one of the typical questions that later on we're going to see is how effective are you, Mr. General Director? Is one of the important questions, that how the general manager can show if he's a good leadership and what type of activities he tried to use. So based on that one of the beginnings of the impact is that when they make the participation, or the general manager participate and the manager too, they have to establish the strategy, the ABCD, based on the policy, how they deploy, like the previous the video. I start asking for a section 4.1, 4.2, and then he jumped into the policy, because with the policy reflect to be in compliance with the objectives of the company, and then inside of these objectives, part of the objectives is to assure the customer's objectives. So that's why it's a link, a straight link. When you make the SOFA, you have to very clearly define what are what possible threats or possible weaknesses or possible strengths that you have. And this is one of the most important tools, like we already say, is example of tools, balance, and scorecards. This is another element. Dashboards, we can use dashboard in order excuse me, to promote the strategies involving the top management. And this is part of the awareness. When you see a person, the general director or the managers, they go to the floor and start talking with the people, start engaging, the people will feel proud that you start talking with them. And one of I remember one of my stories back in the past, when I was working in Japan. One of the issues is that the general manager every month go down to the floor and start working as an assistant of every one of the employees. It's every 1 month with one employee. They use one section, and then the managers, they put the uniform and then start helping to the worker, to the employee. Was totally surprised, the worker. He feels so proud. First, he started feeling a lot of stress. But in this day, the general manager, his responsibility is the assistant of the employee. And then for 8 hours or 6 hours that he was working with them, they got a different picture, a different way to think, because he started learning a lot of things of the employee. So he make the awareness. In fact, I don't ask to every manager do that like this, but this is one of the many methodologies that with facts, you can see the awareness of the people and the involvement, and to work like in the Japanese concept is company-wide totally quality control. When we totally company-wide, is because from the top to down, from the top to the top, working together. Different and different the other philosophy or methodology that TQM, total quality control. Yeah. The other issue is the impact of this type of leadership. Is determine the top management plays its roles, like I already explained with some examples, that is implemented, what is necessary for the achieving of the results, and that they are achieved. The difference between what I projected and how, through the management meetings, or weekly meetings or daily meetings, we start checking if we are in the right path in order to reach the objectives. That's why, but everybody must know what are the objectives of the week or the objectives of the month. And in this case, we are working, and then the dashboards and part of the communication system, this is another section of the standard, very important, the section of communication. And when the youth reflect the objectives in the floor, and the floor you communicate the status, how are moving and how we are reaching the objectives, that brings a lot of leadership and commitment of the people. Because in the same time, one of the customers is the next process, and the other customer is the final user. But everyone in the plant, they must know how is his contribution in one of the small process to the big company or to the big users. They know how is the way to use the product that we ship to the customer. They give you more concerns, more awareness. And another issue that typical we're talking when we start audits, the possible question is, how does the top management ensure that all the points to be verified, understanding, communication, awareness are considered? So just one question that can answer with three or four different activities or the different type of evidence. For example, I can put as evidence of this big question is I can show meetings, minutes of the meetings with the staff, provisional budgets, the organization strategies, the results of the management review, and how effective is the management review, and how used to see the effectiveness. When we're talking as evidence, it's one evidence, but it's not enough for the auditee, for the auditor. They need to see another management meeting, previous management meeting, and then we compare, because remember, the second part of the audit is to measure the effectiveness of the management system. So in this case, I need to see how was the management meeting, how many commitments, how many commitment had, and to see if after 1 month or 2 months, he closed the objectives, he closed the commitments. To see traceability, always you measure how effective it was, and the only way is to compare with previous challenge or previous task that every manager delegate to the employees. Another issue that can be straightforward to the health and safety is what are the activities? You have any incidents in the plant? If you have an incident, which was the root cause in order to avoid? And so in this case, it will be a list of corrective actions. So I declare the corrective action in this meeting, and in the next month, in the next week, I need to request as a management to see what are the results. We already detect the problem, and now we know what was the root cause, and then I have to make the authorization, or I have delegate the authorization to make the corrective action, and based on the corrective action to see the effectiveness of the operation after 1 month or after 1 week, depends the type of issue. And the other one is to show evidence as a good practice is not necessarily documented. In some cases, I don't have evidence, writing evidence, but I cannot take a photo, for example, and to compare, but I can request one of the observers and to see verbally how one person explained me the procedures. I take in a random basis another person from the same area, and he explained me the procedure verbally. That is valuable, is valid for ISO. It has to be not always documented, but this is part of you have to be aware on or the type of challenge that you can have as an auditor. So in this case, in the relaxation, say auditors will also develop their perception of the top management. So you have to figure out what type of management is. Is one management that they don't care the process, just they care the certification. You will see very easily because they are not totally 100% focused in the results, just in to have the presentation or in the human aspects. And you can see later on, you can continue reading the complete presentation. This is what action are taking to promote and encourage, provide resources of improvement. What is your strategy? Okay, I already spoke some of these strategies with example, with the first line of examples, like dashboard, monitoring, strategy, policy, the company that you will see in the next video in the section 5, in order to control the leadership, they implemented a dashboard in order to online in real time, the production people started making the production, the inspectors start measure the results of the quality of the product. And in the moment that they finish every testing, they type in his phone, and this is an app, a small app that they develop the app, and they send the information straight to the database, and this database make the charge immediately in real time, and they send, if it's something yellow or green is no problem, but it's yellow, they send a warning to the managers or to the people. They must know what's happening in the process. And with this type of methodologies or leadership using the dashboard, you avoid a lot of emails. We send tons of emails, but in many people, they don't read the emails. So that's why it's important to look for methodologies that this has to be managed and guidance for the leadership in order to make the investment. So this is part of the dashboard. The audit challenge is the potential non-conformity concerning a sign of leadership responsibility by top management. You can see if this information the top management is part of the communication. So at least the top management, he doesn't have to be in the line in order to know exactly what's happening in the line, because we are sending the alarms. And the other one is typical for establish the quality policy. This is I copy and paste the part of the standard. The policy is a communicate the quality policy. The quality policy shall be able and be maintained and documented the documental information, be communicated, understood, and applied with the organization, and be able to relevant interested parties appropriate. In this case, when we publish in the web page of the company, it is one way. The other one is to try to part of the awareness is to explain and to request a questions to the employee. For example, one of the processes to say, okay, you are a welding, you are in a welding department. So can you tell me how you reflect or how you apply the quality policy in your process? This type of question, there has to be, they don't have to show the policy and to read only. The most important is how they apply in a daily basis the quality policy. The quality policy say there have to be the best welding, the best quality welding in the process. And there's, I always, and the way of the answer of the employee say, I have to be sure, and I have a master here to compare. Every time that I make a welding, this is the way that it has to be. And they show a comparative, how the good one, not good one, or medium acceptable, but not perfect. So he always compares, so he's checking, and in order to be sure about the quality policy, he's checking his quality of the welding every time that they make the welding of one product. This is one way to represent and to see how was deployed the quality policy. What is important for the organization is they need to define how the relevant interested parties can access to the quality policy, has been the contract, has been in the web page, but this important is the commitment. That's why every word that is in the quality policy is you put in a public way and in a documented way is going to become legally, can be as a legal issue, like regarding like customer, to protect the consumer of customers. So you have to be aware that how you are going to demonstrate that every word or every sentence of the quality policy, you are going to be in compliance, and you have to have the evidence, because the auditor is going to show, remember, the auditor he represents the interests of the customers. So he's going to ask that one. The other one, in this case versus the last standard, the impact audit there has no change. Always has been exactly the same. So in this case, the previous last part of the finish this presentation, this is how are the quality policy and the quality objectives established and how they use and the relevant organization purpose. This is look means of making the policy available to the interested parties applicable. So you define already, we explained in the last slide how we can prove this section, as well how it's appropriate to the organization, the quality policies, strategy direction. So we show the business plan, how we are in compliance with the business plan on the based on the context of the organization, based on the interested parties. I see the results, and I had to request how happy are my customers, if they are happy with my product. So it's important, the evaluation of the customer satisfaction is part of the responsibilities of the manager. So based on that, and this is basically almost the last part of the presentation, you will see the section 5, and the auditing is going to show you the presentation. And we are going to try it, if we have a little more time, can be 3 minutes, or 2 minutes is enough, can be well for us, depends the time that we have. So in this case, can you take care of the video, please? I will share the screen.
How you document and how effective is the leadership and commitment in the company? Applying the 5.1, that is a general issue, like the philosophy. And 5.12 is focusing customer focus. Can you explain us, beside the 5.2, that is policy? Can you explain to us, please?
Yes. On leadership and commitment, or quality manual, we can read top burner cap management demonstrate leadership and quality management system commitment by measuring the quality management system accountability, which we do through our SWOT analysis, and accountability of its effectiveness, which was one of our previous weaknesses, as data was not readily available, and now has turned into one of our strengths. The information that we gathered through the new system developed to close this nonconformity has enabled us to, number one, reduce the cycle time from the moment that the information was captured to the moment the information is available for management to make decisions, and has also reduced manager time from gathering and preparing the information to a real-time tool.
Who knows this information?
It's readily available. It's displayed in screens across the facility, and it's also available in mobile devices. So management can, the production manager, the COO, the CEO can access it and see the information.
So in this case, the way that you prove the leadership is improving the communication between every one of the persons of the company.
Okay. Okay, in this case, you can see, thank you to share the video. You can see here, when you go in detail of this presentation, you will see how they gather all the information for this in a real time. And this is, everybody's totally committed because the employee, they know his status, how well he's doing his job. Because in this case, in this company, they pay by piece. They produce uniforms, so they have an incentive for the amount of the quality products that he already finished. He start checking in his own phone when it's necessary, how many good pieces he has or what problem they have, and they motivate by themselves to reach the objectives. It's just from the operator point of view, it's part of the context. The other one is the supervisor. The supervisor knows exactly in what section they have 15 lines, but they cannot be in the 15 lines. But based on the results of this evaluation, the supervisors and the quality guy, they start taking measures in his phone, and immediately they send the alarms and they see the charts. And we put some screens in the company, big monitors that they can see. The employees can see because they are producing. They don't have time to see the phone. But the supervisor, yes, the supervisor has the app. They start rising the results of the inspection. So with these two things, this is the new way to improve and to measure the effectiveness of the standard, immediately reducing costs, as the audit explained to us in these 2 minutes. The video is 6 minutes too. So I suggest that you have time, download as to Mike from Exemplar Global. He can be able to access to this information. This is in a YouTube from GS Progress. Okay, so far this is the last part, and you can see here a new magazine that we are going to share for free. Later on, you can be in contact with Exemplar Global and to see how you can be able to, with another information that they produce. Okay, next, before finish, thank you for watching. Please give the microphone to Mike. And thank you so much for your attention.
Well, thank you again, Marco Pardave, for that look at interpreting evidence for successful ISO 9001 auditing. And that concludes this presentation.